Breitling was my childhood brand. I grew up thinking that Breitling is the best brand which makes watches. I know they were expensive, unreachable, and everyone at least in my country or culturally was considering Breitling as a signature watch. Now it's Rolex AP or Patek, but that's not the story. When I started to seriously collect watches, I realized by the time passes that I've never reviewed a Breitling, even desired to collect one. It feels like the brand slowly went to the bottom while other brands started to shine more and more. And that's strange because Breitling is for sure a legendary brand. It was appreciated on different trends or periods, the latest in the 90s going towards 2000. And I believe sometimes it's tough to remain on top, especially when a lot of brands have figured themselves the road to success, at least in the eyes of the people. I actually think Breitling lost it when everyone started to switch towards in-house movements. I think the brand was prestigious enough to sit over 4 grand with their collections, but movements wise was definitely below 3 grand if we were to look at their competitors. So the way you see it, or how the world works now, it wasn't valuable anymore to spend over 5 grand for a Breitling with an ETA or a Solita movement. You'll see today in the case of the AVI Chronograph example. Breitling did swap in-house calibers with Tudor, the B01, which is today equipping the Black Bay Chronograph. In exchange, Breitling received the 3-hands Tudor MT5612, but it feels only Tudor won from the straight. Also design-wise, it was unbelievable what they did. For instance, last year I was 100% I want to buy myself a Super Ocean with those new models on the dial. And guess what? They changed the collection completely. I was like, what the hell? What is this decision? Because to completely switch your collections from a modern approach like the Chronomat design language to go full heritage, that's super courageous, but it's also risky. The Super Ocean is a good example. From modern lines, a dial with oversized new models and baton hands, to a heritage vintage inspired design, it's quite a long shot. I do appreciate this heritage version, but I think the previous version with new models should have been offered in parallel with the actual one. So what's next for the bronze? I don't know. The only promising thing is that their reissues are quite good quality-wise, and I hope they'll find their balance in this crazy world in 2025. So today, my friends, we're looking at the classic AVI P-51 Mustang, which is not the Ford Mustang version, although they have one. It's the aviation Mustang, which refers to the American long-range fighter bomber from World War II. As you know, Breitling has a vast experience making military chronographs for the RAF, for the US Air Forces, or for the French Air Forces as well. In 1953, Breitling launched the reference 765 AV. This was a pilot's chronograph with a rotating bezel and oversized Arabic numerals designed and inspired from the aircraft's dashboards, a chronograph which was made to coexist with the Navitimer, which was considered an instrument which obviously was purposed to make flight calculations, while the co-pilot, being more legible, was particularly valued as a reliable companion equal to the challenges of aerial activity in the most extreme circumstances. Closing the quote. So this AV Chronograph P-51 Mustang is a homage watch, or a watch which honors the 765 model, and personally I do not like watches which remembers other watches. I like faithful reproductions, but this one feels okay. Although this is the cheapest chronograph from their collections, the retail is around $5,800. However, the secondary market is quite friendly. This can be found at around 3.5k, maybe less than that, so the price is pretty good. And this insight contributes to the downfall of the brand as well, because if we were to compare it with a popular chronograph like the Black Bay, they are on a similar price range as retail at around or below 6 grand. On the pre-owned market in exchange, we will notice that the Black Bay Chrono sits somewhere at around 4.5k, 4.3, even 4, where the AV Chronograph sits below 3.7, reaching even 3 grand. So we can spot from here the difference in brand affinity or value retention with Breitlings. As initial impressions, I have to be honest, I didn't like it. I didn't like the polished appearance of the bezel, but also the dial feels like made out of plastic and molded somehow to emulate a vintage one. But luckily the dial, let's say, and the contents inside are saved by the iconic already double coated crystal with that electric blue hue, which makes any Breitling recognizable and appealing, isn't it? But what is strange, after I started to wear it more often and took some macro shots, the feeling that the dial was cheap kind of vanished, and I honestly appreciate this standard proposed by Breitling for this price range. And now I kinda like the polished combo with the polished sword hands and the matted dial, but also the presence of the lume. It truly feels like an aviation instrument exactly as it was created a long time ago. I appreciate the lume and the fact that it is present on the chapter ring markers, the numerals, the hands, even the tip of the chronograph, which is quite rare. But mostly I enjoy it because the countdown subdial has the markers and the hands loomed as well. Not super long lasting, but even and constant throughout the dial. Alright, so if you wanna know what are the differences between the original 765 from 1953 and this model, I'd say compared to the original one, the main recognizable highlights were taken into the modern ratio. Firstly, as sizing, the old one had 41mm, this one has 42mm. I believe it's all about the sizing of the bezel. The bezel is pretty much the same in purpose with a time zone feature and the same bidirectional function, which is pretty cool, can work as an anti-stress bezel as well. The hands are transformed from matted syringe hands to highly polished pencil hands on the actual one with a more luxurious vibe. Overall, I might say an accuracy of 70% compared to the original one. An interesting detail above the Swiss-made label, on the bottom at 6 o'clock we have GPS coordinates, which is a nod to the spec stamps that used to appear on vintage cockpit clocks. I'm not gonna lie, I looked to see if the coordinates are real, but I couldn't find anything. The case is nicely tailored, it is entirely polished from the front and brushed from the sides, and the crown is pretty cool, oversized, it's creepy with a nice embossed Breitling logo on it. I'd say it is very masculine and complements the presence of the case overall. The movement is exactly the right example as we were discussing. For 5.8 grand you'll receive inside the caliber Breitling 23, which is actually the ETA 7753. I believe decorated accordingly, but at least it's chronometer certified. It's not bad, but at this price range it should have been a genuine in-house in there. I always appreciated the presence of Breitlings. I think they always knew how to finish their watches, to add the right amount of details to capture reflections, but to size them as well, to have the right size, the right presence on the wrist, to offer a manly vibe, and I think this AV chronograph feels to be in the same vibe, because as overall wearability I think it offers an exciting presence on the wrist. It's not a small watch nor thin, but it lays down well on the wrist surface, and I feel it comfortable no matter if it sits on a NATO, on leather or rubber. The reduced weight is contributing to the overall experience as well. Now, if we were to isolate the case from the standard strap and put it on a, I don't know, black leather or rubber, I'd say the watch isn't that spectacular, but on its original brown leather strap it looks phenomenal. I think it brilliantly complements the watch, the stitchings, the color and the shape of it with a clasp really elevates the quality of the watch for sure. This is a brilliant, good looking strap, but I'll try to see if it's worth to buy a bracelet for it to see how it looks. Overall, I'm pleased with the watch, although I have many chronographs in my collection. A pilot chronograph made by Breitling, I think it's welcomed at any time because they were pretty representative for this niche back in the days, and for this reason the watch is worth to sit in the Hall of Fame alongside other iconic chronographs. So the classic AVI Chronograph P-51 Mustang qualifies as a brave beater in the position number 65. So that's it, these are my thoughts about this Mustang chronograph, and I'm really curious to know what do you think about Breitling as a brand in general in their collections. Is it yay or nay? Please let me know in the comments below. And as usual, if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much, thanks for watching, and until next time, be brave and stay safe, my friends.